Good morning, YouTube. I'm Lee Wilson, and this is TGO Wyoming on the move. And today it is an absolutely gorgeous morning. It is overcast with little bits of blue in the sky. The light's just beautiful. It's windy as all get out, but that's the time of the year here in Casper, actually. That's all the time in Casper. That's most of the time in Wyoming. There's a few parts that aren't windy, but for the most part, if the wind's not blowing, we'd all fall over. But on my way to work, I figured today would be a good day to talk about terrorism. Yes, terrifying terrorism. And the forms it takes, right? So most of us think terrorism, we think 9/11, which, that's pretty much the poster child of modern terrorism. And we think of, the Boston bombings and things like that. But there are other forms of terrorism out there, and there are forms of terrorism that are being used on us as a general population every day. So terrorism is to incite terror into a population. Whether or not that event will happen, it could be a threat of a future event, it could be an actual act of terrorism, or it could just be, the threat of terrorism. So we get terrorized all the time as a nation. We have the absolute fear over Zika. We had the Ebola crisis, and I use the term crisis lightly on that one. Neither of those things really had much impact, and it certainly was not as bad as a lot of the commentators were saying it was going to be. So, it's one of those things that the media and, social networking, social media and everything, people are not only susceptible to terrorism, but they aid in terrorism. They aid in the fear, the mass hysteria, the panic. Y2K was another good example of mass hysteria. And can you imagine how bad that would have been if technology had been at the same point that it is now? If texting and Facebook and MySpace, well, not MySpace anymore, but Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all these things had existed back in '99, how much more palpable the fear would have been and how much more it could have proliferated. I mean, as it was, I remember Y2K and everybody freaking out and people clearing out the stores of all non-perishables and stuff like that in preparation for the digital apocalypse. It didn't happen. But still, there was a lot of fear-mongering going on with all that. Most recently, my wife brought up that there was apparently supposed to be some kind of purge event on October 30th, and that didn't happen. And I'm not even quite sure what's up with that one. I didn't really read anything about that. I guess it was not worthy enough to come across my Facebook feed or into any of the news publications that I read and keep up on. But again, her sister was really, concerned and upset about this concept of this pre-Halloween purge. So, I mean, it worked. The terrorism worked. It was proliferated on social media. People will spread things and share things without ever fact-checking things. And you can generate a lot of panic and a lot of terror just by word of mouth. Throw the seed out there and watch the terrifying tree that it grows into, and it'll grow quickly, more like a creeper vine or something like that. But yeah, terrorism is not always just bombs and guns and hostages and stuff like that. It happens to us every day. So do your research, be prepared, and don't be afraid. That is the number one way to defeat modern terrorism, is just to not be afraid. And sometimes you got to accept that stuff happens. Bad things are going to happen. Bad people are going to do bad things. And there's not a lot that we can do about that on a daily basis. There are people that work very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. And for the most part, they probably do an okay job. And in other senses, I know there's certain three-letter agencies that promote terrorism themselves and then lose track of their assets. Go them. Yeah. So don't fall into the mass hysteria. Fact check your stuff and don't let yourself be panicked, because if you become panicked and afraid, then the terrorist wins. And that's what it's all about right there, is creating hysteria, creating panic, creating fear, and they winning. So, them winning. Yeah, be strong and be courageous. That's pretty much all I got for this morning. Hopefully you found this video entertaining and or educational. If you have, let me know in the comment box below. Consider subscribing to the channel to stay up to date on the latest and greatest videos that I produce. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay safe, shoot straight, and I'll see y'all next time.